Hey folks, Charles Sim here. Time for the FLW Pro Circuit Lake Martin review. I'm back in Canada here. We've got winter starting to ease off. Kind of locked up in the house for a couple weeks, self-imposed quarantine after being out of the country. So, kind of on lockdown. So give a little review. Crazy world these days. So we'll throw out what we can there. Talk about fishing, the sport we love. Hopefully stuff gets back to normal soon. Tricks canceled. Our next event, Cherokee's canceled. And who knows what's going to come after that. Anyways, if you're watching Lake Martin, you'll know that it was full of fish. Mostly spotted bass. Mostly they're this big. But full of fish. I believe every single pro over both days caught a limit. I ended up 71st after day one with 10 and change, and moved up a little bit to 56 after day two, so I got out of there with a check. But you could basically almost do whatever you wanted out there. The water was warming up, a lot of fish were moving through the bank, starting to spawn, and you can catch them doing just about anything. I actually didn't have the greatest practice. I mean, I was getting the same numbers everyone was getting, but I only got one fish over 2 pounds over 3 days of practice, so I was a little apprehensive. I had actually spent a lot of time on Google Earth during a low water period marking some fish, and what I found is that I could find some isolated kind of rock areas that obviously were covered with water. Now the water was high, and I was getting a lot of fish around them. Throwing a Ned rig. This is actually a set the hook dead quiver, and I was using the lighter one in juvenile goby is what it's called. Throwing that out on Ned head by a buddy in Cornwall here, Jamie Antoine. Super strong head, nice sharp hook. So that's the Ned rig I was using. Throwing it on a 7-foot medium Halo TI series with I believe it was a 30-pound braid, 10-pound fluoro leader, and just slowly working it along the bottom. That was my day one, my number one bait, and I was so excited. The first thing in the morning, day one, I popped a fish that was 2 1/4, which was a decent fish for Lake Martin. Take a little quick look at this video here. There's a good start. Believe it or not, that's a good spot. But after that, on day one, it really died down. I still caught 20 or 30 fish, but lots of small ones, lots of 1 1/4 fish. I was struggling to get a 1.5-pound fish. And later in the afternoon, I kind of slid up and started hitting some pockets. And I came to this one pocket, and right away saw 2 fish cruising. First pitch out with the Ned rig, and I popped this beautiful fish. It was probably 3, I think it was 3.7 on the scales. So I ended up going.
What were you using?
Oh, the hook come out too.
Oh.
Oh,
We knew there were some up here.
that's a good one.
That is. What's that, about 4 pounds?
Yeah, that's.
Are you in a tournament right now?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah, what he's got.
That's a pretty good call right there.
Oh, that is a good call.
So I ended up going to the scale with a 3.7, a 2 1/4, and a bunch of 1.25 pounds. Um, Day two, I basically did the same thing, although I wasn't getting a bit as well on the Ned. And actually, I'll roll some video of the better catches here in a minute. Um, I wasn't getting a bit as well on the Ned. It was more about a Carolina rig. So I was actually dragging a craw on a Carolina rig again, off some points of some humps with some isolated rock and stuff, and got a great number of fish. Got a couple that were a little bigger. A 210 spot was awesome, and another 2 pound spot plus a bunch of others in the 1.5 pound range, as well. I slipped back into the same pocket. I fished a bunch of pockets. Saw a bunch of really big largemouth, and by big largemouth, I was talking like 3.5 pounds that I couldn't get. But I went back to the exact same pocket where I caught the 3.5 day one, and I picked up this 211 that's coming up, and he was locked on a bed pretty good, but I could not really get him. I couldn't get him to bite the drop shot. I couldn't get him to bite the Ned rig, which are my favorite bed bait. So I actually went a little bit bigger, and I threw on a big old jig, and I started harassing that fish. I believe this is a Punisher jig. I could be wrong, but with net bait Pacacraw on there, and I was just agitating that fish until he finally started snapping at the bait and snapping at the bait and snapping at the bait, and eventually he got it. There's also a pretty good little sample of using the old dishwater trick to clear some pollen. So let's take a look at all these fish I just talked about. Good spot right there. We'll take it.
We didn't want to come out here and bother you. We've been watching.
Have you? Well,
It's exciting to watch.
it's a lot of work.
I'm sure we're persistent.
Paid off. That's awesome.
Good job. So what'd you squirt out, a vegetable oil?
Pardon me?
Did you squirt vegetable oil out there?
It's actually Dawn dish detergent. 1, 2, 3. So that wraps it up. Those are my 3 or 4 best fish out of Lake Martin. Here at home, kind of on lockdown, thinking about the next tournament. Hopefully we can get on the road to Hartwell in a few weeks. I highly doubt it, but we'll see what the world brings us. Thanks for following along. Hit subscribe down below. Give the channel a like. Visit me on social media. We got some more videos and pictures coming. Appreciate you guys. We'll talk soon.